What's up, YouTube, and welcome to the next episode of my Gamer Pro Tips series. Today we're going to be doing a rather simple mod on a Neo Geo CDZ system. This is a system I got recently and have been really enjoying to play Neo Geo CD games, but there's one concern I have with it that I decided I wanted to address pretty early on in my ownership. So the Neo Geo CDZ was actually the final variant of this console. This was only released in Japan, and there was a US spec version of the original Neo Geo CD, the top loader and also the front loader, but not, unfortunately, this version of the hardware. The system is very unique in the way that it region codes games. So if you think about most game systems, they may be region locked for either United States or for Japanese video games. And can only play games of that region. However, this system can play games of any region. They are region-free discs, but they have a nice little side feature, is that the games are have Japanese and English language on the disc, as well as European English, I guess you could call it, also included. So essentially there's 3 languages included on every disc. But the region of the language is tied to the console, not the disc. So I know that sounds very strange, but that's just how SNK did it. So what that means is, even if I was to put a US spec version of one of the discs in this Japanese hardware, it will still show Japanese text in the game. I know, like I said, strange. But the other version that is a benefit of that is, if I mod this console to the English language, I can throw discs at it from any region and they will display English language. That's a big benefit for me because that way at least I can read the games, what's going on. The one side effect of that, however, is the US spec versions of the game, when you turn it to full English mode in games like fighting games like Samurai Showdown, they will display white blood, not the red blood of the Japanese version. So you kind of want both enabled in a way. The ability to play these in Japanese mode to see the blood in games that were edited, and then the ability to play in English for other games that are, had no region editing and you can see the full language. So what I'm going to do is show you a kind of budget version of this mod. This may not be a long-lasting one, but it's the way I decided to attack this. And I'll show you what you need to get started, first off, to get your console set up to display games in English language. So first tool you need is just a simple Phillips screwdriver just to open the console up. This is actually a very easy console to open up and work on. And I'll show you how to get into the guts of it here in a second. You may need a soldering iron if you decide to do this a little bit more professional than the way I'm going to show you, but ultimately I'm choosing at the moment not to solder it, and I want to use that just for the ability to remove the piece I'm going to add in case I want to go back to Japanese language on the games. I do believe there's also a region switch you can install in the system, but that requires a lot more soldering, and ultimately I just decided not to go with that route for right now. We're going to try to keep this on the budget and on the simple for this mod I'm going to show today. So the other thing I have just to use for this simple repair we're going to do is a set of pre-cut jumper strips, and we're actually going to add a jumper to the system. You are totally able to cut your own wire, but I actually like these pre-cut strips just for simplification. And I found one that was actually the perfect size for what I need, so we're going to use those just to do this simple mod I'm going to show you. So let's go ahead and open the console up. I went ahead and removed the screws on the bottom of the system, but I will show you the locations of those. And they are very simple to get to. It's just simple little flathead screws. There are 1 in each corner. So you got 1 there, 1 in this top corner here, 1 in this corner, and 1 down here. And I've already taken the liberty of removing those. They look about like that. So not a very big screw. All right, so we're gonna flip the system back over gently, because this thing is not exactly the most cheap hardware. And I'm going to go ahead and lift the lid off. It's a little difficult to do one-handed, so bear with me here. All right, I'm going to set the camera down for just a second. There we go. So the lid actually just lifts directly off. Nothing is connected to the lid, which actually makes this a pretty simple console to work on. A lot of systems you have to disconnect things from the lid to be able to work on it or work with it in hooked up to the system in some way. The system has a very compact design, especially compared to the original Neo Geo CD, and then you can mod your original Neo Geo CD very similar to what I'm going to show you today, but these directions would be slightly more specific to the CDZ. So if you look at the way that the game board design is set up, we actually want to work in this top right corner. And the easiest way to locate the area we're looking for is where the backup battery is, right here in the front right corner, just this little button battery. We're going to be working right here to the left of this. So if you look, there's actually a diagram here that says US1, EU2. And what that is where you would need to add a jumper to get the system to display in the language of your choosing. So like I say, it'll be US style English or European style English is the way I interpret that. And then no jumper just defaults to Japanese language for your games. So what I've done is the place where you're going to add the jumper is just directly to the right of that. So it's right in this location here. And I have gone ahead and added the jumper. So again, I just took, I'll show you what one of these looks like. Just one of these simple pre-cut jumper strips and added it directly face down with the prongs into the slots. So since I am in the United States, I want US English, so it's going to go in the jumper 1, 2 slots, that one and that one. You want to connect those two. But if you want European English, you would drop those 1 up from that in the jumper 2, JN2 slots. So where I'm going to try to do this mod a little bit more cheaply and simply is originally I got my soldering iron out and I was going to solder this jumper in place. But I actually thought about it and I said if I want to go back and play some of those games that have any edits in the US version, I want the ability to pull this jumper out easily just to display the Japanese version of the game. So I'm actually not soldering this in place. I'm just going to place the jumper in, and I'm going to take my screwdriver and slightly bend the tabs in underneath it that come off the bottom of the jumper. I do think this will work without having to solder it because it actually seems like it's rock solid in place already. I held the system upside down, I shook it around, it wasn't going anywhere. So I think this will be safe to not solder it in place. And the beauty of that is if I want to take it out, I can just lift the cover off, pull the jumper out, and play the game in Japanese language mode again. So that's really all I had to add. Again, time's going to tell here in a few minutes when I plug it into the system, into the TV to see if it actually works. But I think that will give me what I want. Again, you can add a region switch. Requires you to cut into the back of the console and actually get a separate part. But that way you'd be able to flip on the fly between Japanese and English language. You certainly might want to pursue that. I may actually do that in the future, but I want to try this just for now, just to see if I can play some of my games in English for the time being. So I think that's really all I need to show you as far as what you need to do to the system itself. I'm going to put the cover back on and reinstall those 4 screws. And after the cut, I will go ahead and plug this in and we'll test it out to see if it works. One way to check real simply is as soon as you boot up the console, even the main menu screen is currently in Japanese. So if I get English language on that, I know it will have changed over to English language mode. So bear with me 1 second for the cut and we'll see how our little simple mod worked. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and boot the system to see if our mod worked. So the very intro here, this piece was always in English, this doesn't change, but when we get to the menu screen, because I'm just going to boot the menu screen itself, typically it would send a message in Japanese to tell you to insert a disk, and you wouldn't be able to read it. So already I can tell that this changed it, because it says insert CD, so we've got a win there. The other thing that's the beauty of being able to change this to English language is now the memory manager will be in English, and that was something that was very difficult to navigate with the Japanese level options. So the next test is obviously to try out a game. I'm going to actually try one of the cool Japanese exclusive games. I don't know if you can see that. This is Cross Swords 2, and this was not only a Neo Geo CD exclusive game, but also a Japanese exclusive game. So it'll actually be an interesting test to see if there is English language on this disc, since this never was released in other markets, or at least not in the US. So I'm going to go ahead and pop in the game disc here, and we'll see if we have any luck with that being in English as well. But I have pretty good faith that this is going to work. So let me go ahead and hit start. Find my controller here. Alright. I figured it out. Okay. So that's new as well, that it says wait for a moment. That was already in Japanese before as well. And we're going to go ahead and hit start on our disc. So this part was in English before, I will say that. Loading screens usually are. One of the other beauties of the CDZ, if I didn't call it out before, is that it does have much faster loading times than the original Neo Geo CD, so another reason to buy the Japanese version of this hardware versus getting a US spec Neo Geo CD, just for the loading advantage. This is one of the later releases, so it still has some loading times even with that. So, we have some nice English on the menu screen here. I'm going to go ahead and start the game. That'll be the true test. I've got a save file, but I'm not going to load it, just for the purpose of testing this out. And let's see, I think it loaded it anyways. Let's see how this goes. Alright, we have our character select. Always pick the ninja. There's no reason not to. And there is English that was not there before. So I think we have a win. Like I said, this was a very easy mod, and it's also easily reversible. I can just pop that cover off, take the jumper out if I ever need to put some of the games back into Japanese mode. But for now, I'm going to play some Cross Swords. Hope this video was helpful to anybody that has this system if you haven't done this mod already. And I will talk to you soon. Have a great day or night wherever you are. Thank you for watching, and please take a moment, like, comment, subscribe.